best method of getting in touch with people. Not asking to buy, but asking if you could talk about something, because there is a kind of sense of trust in being asked to give advice, that these people value you, and it's something that's free. It doesn't require a long obligation, as opposed to if I'm going to sell you something, I've got to say yes or no, which is stressful. And one of the advices that I give to people is, in order to try and create sales opportunities, when you're looking at trying to get people to get you in to be able to talk to them, write a letter. I find so few people actually physically write a letter. And in a letter, you get a chance to lay out, I've been a giant fan of your work. I noticed in these interviews you talked about these things which touch my heart. I am in awe of the things that, and you're trying to actually sort of put yourself in a place where the buyer knows that you know about them, that you value them without being sucked up, because people can see through phoniness. So I always believe in authenticity. And then you say, and those things have influenced me, and I have some things I would value intensely, that if you would be able to give me some time. And you also want to mention what I call advocacy in a letter like that, which is my agents say that I've got one of the most amazing scripts going around right now, or my film professors have graded me and said that I'm one of the top students that they've ever had, or something that just helps those people look at you as being worthy of the advocacy. And if they actually did say, and they suggested I get in touch with you, that really helps, because then it's cold calling somebody much more approachable. But
for sure,
I know an executive several years ago who was going to be an MBA exec, and he decided that he would actually rather be in the film business. And he wrote 4 letters to 4 major producers, and all 4 of them interviewed him, and all 4 of them in person ended up offering him internships. And so that always stayed with me, that personal approach, not an email, which is hit and run. It's a flyby, but making the effort. And I wouldn't handwrite the letter; I just sign it so it's easy to read. Everything's about simplicity. How do you get it done without too much effort, without it failing? And then follow it up with a call to the assistant, and see if there's an opportunity to chat. And don't ask for a lot. Ask for 5 minutes.
Yeah. The first job I got in the industry, I think I was 23, maybe 24. He said, I wanted to interview because you were the only one who sent me a physical resume. And I didn't even think of it at the time. I'm like, well, this is just what you do. So I got a little lucky. But having that mindset of what's the, more personal and least, invasive way, because how fun is it to get something in the mail that you can tell is actually a real piece of mail, as opposed to some kind of, advertising thing, or, you get 10 of them a day. It's just a waste of paper. Okay. So now in terms of writing your way to success, I mean, this is a pretty broad term. When a writer is, let's say you were at a restaurant, putting you on the spot here, Ben, and somebody recognized you, or they knew that you were, so that you have the personal thing already from that person, and they're just starting in terms of attempting to move forward with a writing career. That could be a very long conversation in terms of advice, but what would be that first thing that you would tell them?
Boy, I mean, it's like such a mosaic of things to think about.
Yeah.
I often tell people that my greatest problem is my errors of omission, where I cowed it out of doing things, where I let myself down by overthinking or avoiding taking an opportunity. I carry those for the rest of my life. There's so many wonderful things about human beings. There's a guy called Maxwell Maltz who wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which essentially just said, and it was in the 60s, but his work was foundational for a lot of people. We are problem-solving creatures. We're designed as survivors. We come from generations and generations of successes where our ancestors managed to think their way through life to the point of reproduction. And so when you're looking at taking on a challenge, it can be really daunting because all you can see is these unanswered questions, but you have to have faith that the answers will come, that you will actually solve problems, and that other people will participate if you're a reasonable person in solving your problems.